Welcome. I hope all of you are doing good. A few of you, those who have repeatedly asked me about what is four-step theory in Krishnamurti's framework. I recall I did a couple of videos long back where I had discussed the background of the what is called as the four-step theory in Krishnamurti Paddhati, and I think the title of those videos were uh, resolving confusions around significators. In those videos, I've already discussed the four-step theory, but since this particular method of assessing the significators in finding the true significator versus the false significator. So this particular method is more popularly known by the name four-step theory. So I thought I'm going to do a video with this title so that it is clear to many of the users who are not aware that I've already done the video on four-step. Uh, this video is you should have a good experience in Krishnamurti Paddhati, maybe a year or more than that, a good proficiency, and then only you will understand that what is this four-step theory all about. For the beginners, I would not recommend this learning four-step at this time. Let's first look at the need. What is the need for this four-step theory? And like I mentioned, this is about the the assessing the true significators versus the false significators, or a method of us gauging the real strength of a significator versus what is called as the tempters in the KP astrology. Let's look at this particular chart. It would become clear to you. Now this is a chart of a female, and let's just for the sake of explanation, let's assume that this she is going through, or she would be going through or she is going through the Venus Mahadasha, and that she has a marriageable age. Though from this chart you see the moon is in the sun star, so the Venus period is not going to be operating in her life. And but like I mentioned, just imagine this is just for the sake of explanation. So here is a chart, the Bhavchalit chart, and we are assessing this chart from the point of view of marriage, and we assume that the marriageable age is going on and Venus Dasha is operating. Now, if you look at the layout, the typical layout of significator, then you find that the Venus is a very strong significator indicating marriage. And now, immediately after the Venus bhukti, then you find Venus, Sun, Moon, Mars. And if you look at each of these bhuktis, starting with Venus, and then Venus, Sun, Moon, Mars, Rahu, you'll find that all these planets, they are all signifying the 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 houses connected to marriage, and they are signifying it very strongly. So when you get this kind of a chart, or usually, at one point you run into these issues where you have a lot of these significators coming up, and then you find yourself struggling to identify which one of these significators is actually going to bring about a particular event, in this horoscope, the marriage. Whether Venus could bring about the marriage, or Venus Sun, or Venus Moon, Venus Mars, Venus Rahu, all these planets are significator of houses connected to marriage, and they are all very strong significators, either by the star lot column or in the sublot column, you can, and also overall they are strong significators. So the usual method of looking at the sublot of a planet to assess whether a particular planet is really a significator or not. In this case, you will see that all the sublots for all the planets, they tend to be a significator indicating marriage. So how do you eliminate the tempters? So that's one of the questions that you will start facing in the KP astrology predictive side, and this is where you have to look into what are the other tools that are available to help you out in eliminating the tempters and identifying the real significators in responsible for bringing a event. And why it is called a four step is very simple. This theory itself is very simple, it's not difficult at all. And it's called the four step because if you look at, we already have three column, one is the column that indicate the usual signification of the planet, second is the star lot column, third is the sublot column, and then we are going to have a fourth column. Okay, so this is how it becomes a four step theory. Remember this, the column 4 is not going to be a sub lord. Okay, this four step theory doesn't make use of sub lord. It's different from the sub lord. So I will explain that to you. But this is the idea behind this popular name four step theory. So now in the four step theory rules, the one of the you have to basically understand the step 1 and step 2. If you have understood the step 1 and step 2, then step 3 and step 4 are nothing just but the copy and paste of the step 1 and step 2. Also in the four step theory rules, now these days the four step theory rules have lot of different flavors, and because many veteran KP astrologers, they were attracted to this theory, they started working on it, and they developed their own flavors of four step theory rules with little bit of variation, but we are going to stick with the very basic one. So in the basic one, the Rahu and Ketu, for the Rahu and Ketu, only the sign lord is used to find out that what kind of houses are being signified by Rahu and Ketu. Unlike the usual method where the conjunction and aspect and the sign lord, everything is used to assess the signification of Rahu and Ketu, and this is how then we end up having a layout where there are too many significators for a given house. So now since we are just concerned with learning step 1 and step 2, so I am going to remove the column 3 right now, just to make things a little simpler. Let's remove the column 3. We are just right now, we'll just focus on the column 1 and column 2, or we call it the step 1 or step 2. And this is nothing, this particular table that you see over here is just an identical copy of the what you see over here. So this is the usual layout of significators, and we are going to apply the four step rule to this table, and we'll eliminate all the tempters or all the weak significators from this particular thing. So for the step 1 or column 1, what are the rules? First we have to look at this particular column and see if the planets which are signifying these particular houses, are they really the significator of these houses or they are just tempters. So we are going to apply the step 1 rule. So what is the step 1 rule? I have laid down the rule in a very simple manner for you to understand. Is note down the name of planet in column 1. So we are going to note down the name in column 1. This is column 1. Check if that name appears in column 2. Okay. And then we'll see if that name appears in column 2. These are both the same two copies of the same table. Check if that name appears in column 2. If found, then that planet has nil signification at column 1. If not, then the planet signifies the house it occupies and also the vacant houses owned by it. There are some spelling mistakes somewhere, please ignore that. So let's apply this rule it says that note down the name of planet in column 1. So let's say we have Ketu, and then it says check if that name appears in column 2. So we find that in column 2 the name Ketu appears anywhere. So we don't find Ketu appearing in the column 2. So right now we'll leave Ketu and Rahu, and we'll do it after we have assessed the other planets. So let's look at Venus. So the Venus in column 1, does this name appear in column 2? We see that the Venus appears over here and also over here. So what the rule says is, if found, then that planet has nil significance at column 1. So now what we'll do is that we are going to remove the houses that were signified by Venus at column 1. Okay, check if that name appears in column 2. If found, then that planet has nil significance at column 1. So we found Venus appearing over here in column 2. So we removed the houses that were signified by Venus in the column 1. Similarly for Sun, note down the name in the column 1, that Sun. Look into the column 2. Look if Sun appears anywhere as the star lord. You find that Sun appears over here, right? It appears over here. So we will remove Sun also from here. And then let's look at Moon. So Moon, we find that Moon doesn't appear over here. So what this rule says is, if not, then the planet signifies the house it occupies and also the vacant houses owned by it. So since the moon is not appearing over here in column 2 as the star lord, it's not appearing as the star lord of any planet. So we'll apply this particular rule that says that that planet signifies the house it occupies. We are going to look into the cusp chart only. The planet signifies the house it occupies. So where is moon? Moon is in the third house. So moon will signify the third house, and also the vacant houses owned by it. So what are the houses or the house owned by the moon? That's the ninth. And then the second condition is that, is it vacant? Yes, it is vacant. So we are going to retain 3 and 9. So moon becomes a significator of these two houses at step 1 or the column 1. Now let's look at Mars. So you find Mars appearing over here, right? So we are going to remove Mars from here. And then Rahu is appearing over here, so we are going to remove Rahu from here. And then Jupiter. So Jupiter is appearing over here, right? So we are going to remove Jupiter also. And Saturn in the column 2, we don't find Saturn. So we will apply this rule that if Saturn doesn't appear in column 2, then where is Saturn placed? Saturn is in the 12th house. So Saturn in 12 is 1, and then the vacant houses owned by Saturn. So what are the houses that the Saturn is the ruler of? That's the third house and the fourth house. But you see here that the third house is already occupied by moon. So, and the rule says the planet signifies the houses it occupies and also the vacant houses owned by it. So vacant is only the fourth house. So in Saturn we will retain the 12th where the Saturn is placed, and then we will retain the fourth house. So we will remove the third. Then Mercury. So let's look at Mercury. So we don't find Mercury anywhere. So where is Mercury? Mercury is in 2. What are the houses owned by Mercury? That are the 8th and the 11th, right? So but Ketu is there in the 8th. So we'll remove this. So this is the step 1 or the column 1, the rules for the step 1 or the column 1. Now if you compare this with the usual stereotype layout, then you see that the number of significators they have gone through a dramatic change when you compare this to this. So now our step 1 is complete. So let's focus on the step 2 or the column 2. So this is the, now for the, what is the rule? The rule for the step 2 or the column 2 is that planet signifies the house it occupies and also the vacant house is owned by it. And this is, we are talking about at step 2 or column 2. So this is where, you know, we have to be focusing on. And so it says the planet signifies the house it occupies. Let's look at Jupiter. So Jupiter is occupying the 7th house. And what are the houses it is ruling? That's the 2nd house and the 5th house, right? But you see that the 2nd house, you already have other planets occupying the 2nd house, owned by Venus. So we are going to ignore, you know, the 2nd house, and but we are going to retain the 5th house. So 7 and 5th. So we are going to remove this from here. And did we leave the Ketu thing? Okay, let me, you know, I think I forgot to mention the Ketu in the column 1. Sorry about that. So let's first go to the step 1 rule and look at what the Ketu signifies. So I mentioned that Rahu and Ketu, they signify the sign lord. This is a cusp chart, and it seems like Ketu is in Gemini, but Ketu is actually in Cancer, so it signifies the moon. So the rule is here for Rahu Ketu, and for Ketu we don't find Ketu, you know, appearing anywhere over here. So we are going to retain the house where the Ketu is, which is the 8th house. The 8th house will keep, and then since the Ketu represents moon, so we are going to look at what moon will be doing in this cusp chart. So moon is in 3rd, and moon is the owner of the 9th house, which is vacant. So 8, 9 and the 3rd. So we are going to remove these two, and we are just going to retain 3, 8, 9. So now let's look at the the step 2 rule. So Jupiter we have already taken care of from the step 2. Now let's look at Venus. So where is Venus? Venus is in 2nd house. 2nd house we will retain, and the house is owned by Venus. Let's see whether those are vacant or not. So 12th is 1, and both of these houses are already occupied. The Venus house 12th and the 7th house. You already have planets over there. So we are going to remove the 7 and 12. So now Venus is only indicating the 2nd house at the step 2. You see how dramatically the signification for the Venus has changed. This was the traditional, the stereotype layout where Venus was indicating all these houses, and now suddenly you see that a lot of these houses, they have disappeared, and the Venus at column 1, column 2 only signifies in 2nd house. Now for Sun, Sun is also in the star of Venus, since we have already uh, analyzed the Venus. So all we have to do is just remove this, right? And then Moon. Let's look at the Sun over here. The Moon is in the star of Sun. Sun is in the 2nd, so 2nd we will retain. 2nd house we will always, the wherever the planet is, in which house, irrespective of whether there are other planets or not, we are going to retain that house. So 2nd house we will keep, and other house owned by Sun is the 10th house. So there are no planets in the 10th house; it is vacant. So we will keep the 10th house. Mars is in the star of Rahu. Okay, so where is Rahu? Rahu is in the 2nd. So 2nd we will keep, and then the like I mentioned to you that in 4th step the nodes Rahu and Ketu, they represent the sign lord, and so Rahu in the cusp chart seems like it's in Sagittarius, but it is not. It is actually in Capricorn. So Rahu represents Saturn. So what can Saturn do over here? Saturn is in 12, and then Saturn owns the houses 3rd and 4th. In the 3rd house there is Moon. So we have only 12th house and the 4th house, and wherever Rahu is. So second house and the 12th house and the 4th house. So fourth will keep, and Rahu is in Saturn's star. Since sorry, in Sun's star, and Sun we have already assessed over here, so it's the same over here. Jupiter is in Mars. Look at what the Mars can do. Mars is in 12, and these two houses, the ascendant and the sixth house, they are both owned by Mars, and they're both vacant. So so Jupiter is going to represent 1, 6 and 12. 1, 6 and 12. Saturn is in the star of Rahu, and Rahu we have already seen that it represents 2, 4 and 12. So we'll just keep 2, 4 and 12. And Mercury is in the star of Venus. So Venus we have already seen that it only indicates the second house. So this is how now you can see that after applying the step 2 rule at column 2, this is what we get. This is what we had originally, and now this is what we got after applying the rules. So now let's look at the column 3 and column 4. So now column 3 and column 4, like I mentioned to you, is nothing but more like just a copy paste from the column 1 and column 2. Okay, some of these the values I have already populated just to save some time, and some of these I am going to show you that how this copy paste works. So in for Ketu, what is the sublord? Sublord is Rahu. So what you will do is that you will look at Rahu over here. Sublord is Rahu. You will look the where the Rahu is. Rahu is over here. So all you have to do is just copy this and paste it over here, right? So that becomes your column 3 or the step 3, and this becomes your step 4 or the column 4. Similarly for Venus, what is the Venus sublord? It is Sun. So what we did to the Sun over here, Sun, this is Sun, right? So we are just going to copy this from here, and we are going to paste over here. And then you have the Sun, which is in the sublord is Saturn. So we have to look at Saturn over here, copy these things and just paste over here, right? I hope I didn't make a mistake, because this is easy, but this is little tedious in terms of presenting it. So now you have the what is called as the 4-step layout, right? You got all the 4 steps now. So this is step 1, this is step 2, this is step 3, and this is step 4. And if you look at if you compare, the signification of the planets from this table to this table, so you see there is a drastic reduction. And so this is what 4 step is trying to do. It is trying to eliminate what is called as the tempters. Now, having done all these things, let's now apply this rule, the 4-step rule, to this chart. And our question was that about the marriage. Okay. Now this particular female, she was going through the Rahu period when she got married. Venus, initially we mentioned about Venus just to explain something. But if you look at the Rahu over here, right? So the first is of course a job. Okay. So she got a job during the Rahu period, and so now Rahu here indicates so many different houses. But if you look at the Rahu over here, right? So then you know that it is a very strong filtered significator of 2, 6 and 10. So you know that Rahu is very good, especially for the career. Okay, compared to assessing the same thing from here. Then she got married during the Rahu period, and because Rahu over here does indicate a family life. And then no, she got married during Rahu Saturn period. Yeah, that's important for you to note over here, that she didn't get married during the Rahu Jupiter period. And by that time, when she entered Rahu Saturn period, she was like 30 years old, and the family members were worried that she was getting that the whole marriage thing was getting delayed. So let's look at the role of the Jupiter from the traditional layout versus the 4-step layout. Now, if you look in the traditional layout, you will see that Jupiter seems to be a very strong, significator of houses that indicates marriage, right? But she was not able to get married during the Jupiter period, right? And if you look from the 4-step point of view, then you find that the the Jupiter at the 4th step, and here also it's a very strong significator of the 10th house, which actually negates the marriage. And then she got married during the Rahu Saturn period. Now if you look at Saturn over here, right, then you might not be very sure whether the Saturn could bring about the marriage or not. But if you look over here in the 4th step, then you see that Saturn becomes a very strong significator of the 5th and the 7th house. So that indicates a love marriage, and that is what happened with her. So she got married during the Rahu Saturn period, and then finally she had a divorce in the Rahu Mercury period. Now if you look at this the 4-step layout, then you see that these planets are very good from the professional point of view, and you have lot of these 2, 10 and the 6th house, and these appearing from the in the 4-step layout. So that obviously makes person's professional life very good. But these planets are also not good for from the matrimonial point of view. So this is how you apply the 4-step reduction to the user layout, and so that gives you a better idea about the strength of the planets, and that could be helpful for you to eliminate what is called as the tempters in the Krishnamurti Paddhati. Now this if you have the KP star 1, then there is an option which is already there in the KP star 1. It's called the 4-step, and so if you click on that, then and if you get into the option various other the settings for this 4-step, I would recommend that you you have this checked. This particular option should be checked. So what this will do is this will give you a descriptive analysis of how the 4-step is applied on whatever chart that you are casting using the 4-step theory. So that will give you a more, I would say, a technical idea about the how the planets are eliminated in terms of whether they are occupying a particular star, or if their houses are vacant or not vacant. So 2-3 charts if you do, and with this option on, and then you yourself will be able to memorize the rules, that what are the rules of the 4-step theory. And this is a good tool, you should be using it. And in the predictive side of Krishnamurti, that is where most of us get stuck up, and that is the elimination of significators. So whatever tool you can lay your hands on, don't get fixed with this also, just with this particular layout. You have to go beyond it, and you have to experiment, see and explore what are the other tools or methods available to eliminate the tempters and find out the true significators. So that's all in this video, and I hope you enjoyed watching this. Thanks.